Okay, good morning. We are getting ready to start our day. And here is our blank spot for material. You see that light effect there? That's so cool. Material for processing and cardboard. And today's knife is the 511 Tactical Heron. 420 J2 steel. A little bit of jimping there. So we're going to see how this works as an everyday carry knife. See if I can get that effect again. Okay. Grab some paper. Cutting paper. We're using copier paper. Okay. So you know the drill. 4 hours of paper, cardboard, cardstock, and then 4 hours of rubber bands, inner tubes, foam, wood, and paper, cardboard, cardstock. So it's a mix. There's no determined as far as how much of each get put in, and we want to see how long this will go before needing to be resharpened or an edge put back on some ceramic pull-through rods. So okay, so just a couple things I've already noticed. It having such a small cutting surface, I mean, it has an edge, but it's got a hollow grind that goes up pretty thick, pretty steep, which I like for the sturdiness, but it really makes slicing, you can tell, I should say, that it's not as easy, it's not as slicey. So I'll keep that in mind. I mean, it cuts, and that's really what I'm looking for, is edge retention, because this will work to open letters and bills and stuff like that. But as an EDC knife, I mean, it should do fine, but if you're doing a lot of like cardboard or paperboard cutting, it just has a little more resistance. So is that all I wanted to say about that? I think it is. So oh no, I wanted to point out also that it's the nice pointy tip. So sometimes when I'm slicing and there's resistance, it's like I'll just stab and pull. So very, very nice for stabbing cardboard. The more I feel it, the more I question it. So if it's a hollow grind, it's very, like, because of the small area, it's really shallow. So either way, you start hitting the top section of the blade rather quickly. Alfredo and ramen is the yum. Alfredo and ramen. Okay, so not too much material. So I'm going to say it cuts paper still. Let me try one more paper. So one thing I noticed though is that because there's not a lot of blade, yeah, there we go. Must be a dull spot forming. But because there's not a lot of blade, you can see that the cuts are very aggressive. They're not fine. They're not slicey. And that's probably because the paper is tearing once it hits the thicker part rather than cutting. So it's tearing the paper at that point and not cutting. But it still cuts paper, at least for the edge. If I can get paper that will let me cut it. Yeah, we're going to say it still cuts paper. So, very nice finger choil. And very nice jimping right here. So it lends itself with the pointy tip. It makes me want to stab and then cut. So a lot of my cutting, because there's not a lot of blade, I find that I'll do a couple cuts on the edge and then I'll stab and cut. So it still uses the edge, but it's using the point more. So, but we'll keep going. Okay, we are at the halfway point, so we're going to switch over from cardboard and paperboard to, not that rope. I mean, we'll use that rope, but I didn't cut that rope. It must have fell. Anyway, let us see how it does with the edge. So it looks like it's still going to cut paper. But yeah, the biggest thing is that because it gets thicker faster, your cuts as you go through are not as clean. I did notice that on thicker cardboard it struggled because it basically got wedged in. It didn't, at this point, you're dragging this, there's no edge, and it's, yeah, I'm not a scientist. So we'll see what happens on the second half here. Okay, we got about 1 hour left in the day. There is the material so far. I'm noticing that I'm not really enjoying just straight cutting with it. I like poking and pulling. And part of that is because of the blade shape and size. But one thing I noticed was that the grind, look over here on the tip. You see where that edge, there's the edge and then there's the top of the grind. See how it starts right there? It looks like they're not asymmetrical. See how that one is more in the middle of the blade tip, whereas this one is higher up. I doubt that really does anything. I mean, it still cuts material. I just, but for a $30 knife, also take that into account. So let us see about the paper. So it's cutting paper still, but like I said, when I get right up basically to the point where the paper meets this part, it starts to basically just tear the paper. So it still cuts paper, but I'm having more fun puncturing and pulling. So 1 more hour, then I'll give my final thoughts. I have not touched up this edge yet. And I've been cutting other materials besides paper. It does very good on the whittling. Did okay on the inner tube tires. Did okay on the rubber bands. Oh, here's some foam. Let's see real quick on the foam. Not as choppy. I didn't do anything to this foam. All foam is not created equal. Probably if I held it down and draw or saw through it. So yeah, I mean it'll cut, but I had to saw through it. Anyway, 1 more hour. Okay, so let's go ahead and finish up the day. So quite a fair amount of material. You see these big pieces here? That's because it was kind of it was not fun slicing from the edge, stabbing and pulling. So that's what I like to do with it. Let us check the edge. So 420 J2 steel. I did not have to touch it up. I'm probably getting close to it. Find a straighter edge here. So it still cuts paper, but like I said earlier, because it doesn't give you a lot of room, a lot of blade, it goes from edge to thickness of the spine really quick, and I could feel that even after the first few cuts. Pull up my notes here real quick. So on the second half, we ended up processing. We cut up some straws, plastic straws. It did struggle with a thicker cardboard, not because of the blade, but because it would get resistance from the thicker edge. See here, duct tape did really good. Duct tape rope, just strands of duct tape wrapped up together. Wooden dowels that did a good job whittling. So just the nature of the knife made me want to stab. I hate to be that way, but just the way the knife is, there's a natural tendency to stab for me. Very comfortable finger choil. Very comfortable handle. The black coating, very durable, has not rubbed off at all. So would this be a good EDC knife? Well, sure, it would be. You're not going to use it, the average person's not going to use the knife like I did for 8 hours. You're going to use it for a cut here, a cut there, and then maybe touch it up once a week. Because if you do more cuts, then you probably need a better steel. So I did not have to touch this up at all, and I think just the nature of the knife is what made it the way it is. Not as slicey, I guess is the best description. I do like the thicker blade stock. I just feel like it's less likely to snap than a full flat grind. To be fair though, I don't know how thick the blade at the top is of the CRKT spew. I just know it looks very pointy, and that's why I avoided it. Will this open blister packs? Yes. Will it open up taped boxes? Yes. Probably not a good choice for all day breaking down boxes, but if you're opening up a package, a food package, very good. Very good for if you need an improvised fork, just to stab something. Yes. So anyway, there you go. This is the 511 Tactical Heron, and I'm done.